Welcome to the Combative Nerds Podcast. Join us.
What? They told me they fixed it. I trusted them to fix it. It's not my fault. Oh, God, I don't think we're going to have the juice for a full episode, so instead we're going to bring you a rapid fire. Oh, the Fighter Wizard. My bad. Sorry about the hyperdrive.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our rapid fire. This is Raiderlance and
FighterWizard.
So today we are going to talk about, for part 2, American role-playing games, RPGs versus Japanese RPGs. I know a little bit about this, but only on the American side. Strangely enough, I don't know about the Japanese side. So, FighterWizard, educate me.
All right,
What's
I
the
do think
difference?
it's weird that you do not know about the Japanese RPGs, because I would assume you did just
Yes.
based on the art style that JRPGs take.
Yes.
So, in thinking about different subjects that we could do for this, we both love video games. We've bonded over several video games, the primary one being Skyrim.
Yes.
Just so all of you know back there, like they're fucking behind us. Out there, the fight song that Raiderlance and I would play while we sparred was the Dragonborn theme.
Yep.
And then we decided not to play the Dragonborn theme when we sparred, because as soon as it came on, our technique went to shit, and we just started hitting as hard as we could. And after 3 minutes of that, like, you're sucking wind, your head hurts.
Yep.
And we're both like, man,
We're going to have a headache later.
we're not responsible enough to play this song.
I can't play it today.
Dude, first of all, it's your ring. And second of all, it's great. It comes on Pandora all the time. I favorite it and all this other shit.
I actually hit up when I found out that there was the Dragonborn ringtone. I think I texted you, I demand that you buy this and assign it to me.
I did. And I will leave my phone on and the ringer on, when I'm at the gym, because in the off chance you text me, that theme plays and it sounds awesome. And you can always spot the hidden nerd in the group, like, whoa, they pop up like prairie dogs out of their hole. Whoa, what's that? Is that the Dragonborn theme? That's dope. And then you have a friend.
So the visual you guys don't understand is, if you are not rolling, if you go to a mat, it looks like an ocean of white or blue, whatever the colors your mats are. And then you're going to have about anywhere from 20 to 50 guys. So that's anywhere from 10 to 25 guys or girls, rolling around in these little clusters. And when he said pop up like a prairie dog, you got to understand, everybody's like laying down or balled up in a circle. So if someone pops up, sticks out their head, it's literally like a prairie dog sticking their head out of the grass. That was a great analogy. I liked it.
Thank you very much. So, but to get back to the question, to get back to the subject, my question is, what genre, and it's very broad, of RPGs do you prefer? And a good example of the split, and they're very different to my mind now. But a good example of the top 10 JRPGs, Japanese RPGs, and Japanese RPGs really started it. So it kind of hit the market running with Final Fantasy. I believe that's 1989 or 1990. Square's Final Fantasy. And then there was Dragon Warrior 2, Dragon Warrior 3, and I think it's like Dragon Warrior 14 or 15 now. There's
Really?
Final Fantasy. Oh, yeah, tons. Dragon Warrior is by far more popular in Japan than it is in the US or Europe. There's also all the Final Fantasies. They're up to 15 or 16 now. I stopped after 13. 13 was awful. There's Chrono Trigger for the SNES. Let's see, Earthbound, Fire Emblem. I've never played it. It's very popular. Xenoblade Chronicles, Secret of Mana. That's, of course, sort of in the Monoverse. That was, again, SNES or Seiken Densetsu, I think. And then American RPGs, they took a little bit to get their steam, but the most famous ones would be those by Bethesda or Obsidian. Let's see, Neverwinter Nights for the PC, and all the Baldur's Gate series, Skyrim, or the Skyrim, Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls Chronicles, and then basically like the future cousin of that, or the future sibling of that, Fallout. And my question to you is, which of those, I think I know the answer, but which of those do you prefer and why?
Well, right off the board, I got to take all the Japanese ones off. I just never got into them, oddly enough. That is just insane, right? I love anime, big on Transformers, would live in Japan if I could. But I never.
I'll bet.
But I just never got into that. Maybe because it involved a reading more so on the American, everything's translated, right? So there's probably going to be more reading where there might be less so in the American
there's
RPGs.
a lot of reading in like Skyrim or Fallout.
There is, and I hate it for that reason.
Okay.
I am an English major that is not a reader. So yeah, go figure that one out. So of course I'm going to default to the American. I always liked growing up Wizards, Warriors, Dungeons & Dragons. So I am always going to go for the middle-aged knight wizard type RPG. And I know they're not called RPG, but instead of playing those games, I actually preferred MMOs, RPGs. So that's where I spent way more time. I lost years to those things. And it was, of course, Lord of the Rings was the one I played the longest. And I would, like, have you seen that anime Sword Art Online?
No.
Okay, you should, because it's for gamers. And it's basically you hook up yourself like the Matrix with a visor, and you go into the Matrix, which is a Wizards and Warriors world. And the first season was fantastic, at least the first half of the first season.
I'm seriously hoping this technology becomes available and very well done, well executed before I die. I have a PlayStation VR. I love Skyrim on that, but it's got a ways to go.
Well, so that's where where I was going for it. So spoiler alert, season 2, he finds a couple players that are phenomenal, and that's because they are terminally ill patients that are hooked up 24/7 to the VR machine that they live out the rest of their life in that world. That's what I'm hoping for me by the time, I'm on my deathbed, that I'm checking out, and it would be in Lord of the Rings Online. So that's, my dream death. Pretty pathetic, but either way, that would be what I like. I like the magic. I like the warriors. The only problem with MMOs is you got to play with other people. So you got like actual personalities that you have to deal with. So for that reason, I preferred Skyrim because I could do what I wanted. I didn't have to deal with any other person. But yeah, if I had to pick one, it would have obviously be Skyrim.
Yeah, Skyrim is one of my top 3 video games of all time. I've devoted a lot of time to that game. Almost specifically, indeed. And if you play it, you can't not devote time to it. You either hate it within the first hour or two, or you realize that you live there now.
Yes.
I got that game mainly because, well, 1, it was interesting. 2, it's right in my wheelhouse. I too like the medieval genre or aesthetic. And 3, I remember you talking about it, and then you disappeared. And
Sounds about right.
You absolutely disappeared from any social interaction. I even talked to your wife about it, and I just asked, like, wow, he plays the game so much. Like,
she was at the gym,
like,
and I wasn't.
She said something really nice. She said he works so hard, and it's totally okay for him to have fun. And the woman is right. You work harder than most people I've ever met. And,
not anymore. But
didn't you get your smithing skill up to like 96 by smithing fucking iron daggers or something? That's
something like that.
Shit.
Yeah.
That is boring. I paid for my smithing skill.
Dedication.
Like, here's some gold. So when I got Skyrim, I put it in my PS3 to date it. And it was 6 a.m. I started at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. My husband was gone. He was not my husband at the time. And I knew that I would really like the game. I can usually play a game for about 2 hours before I go roots out of my ass. And I'm like, I got to get up. I can't do this anymore.
Oh, rookie?
I played that game for 14 hours straight.
Yeah, that's an average day.
I did not enjoy taking my dog out. Was as simple as me opening up the back door and letting her go out. It was 10 feet from my couch, and I did not enjoy having to get up to let her do that. And I was distinctly pissed at having to go to bed. That trend didn't change. That game is amazing. That said, I originally liked JRPGs because I liked Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy cleaved very much to a medieval aesthetic at first. The first one was essentially Dungeons and Dragons.
I didn't know that.
It's not far off.
Okay.
There's a fighter, a monk, a black wizard,
a
white wizard, which is essentially a cleric.
Okay.
A thief and a red mage, which is a blend of both.
Yeah.
But dressed like a bard from Dungeons and Dragons. And they stuck with that medieval aesthetic, and I liked it all the way throughout. Final Fantasy VI was cool. Final Fantasy VII was like a watershed event for the PlayStation. But they got away, and it became not steampunk, but futuristic. By the time they hit Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy X2, which is like a dressing game, and I've never played it. I refuse. And Final Fantasy 13 is where they lost me. It's this futuristic thing. It was voice acted. It's fucking horribly voice acted. It's a terrible game. And all the only reason I got it was Final Fantasy. It was a Final Fantasy. And the reviews I read were, if you can make it like 20 hours into the game, it opens up and it's a really good game.
Jesus.
But the thing is, and so I stuck with it. But by the time 20 hours came along, one, I'll never get those hours back.
Yep.
I could have spent them doing anything else. I could have cleaned my kitchen. But if you make a game that's buried behind, if you make it where the good part is buried behind 20 hours of not good part, your game sucks.
Yeah.
It is not a good game. And I have never played another Final Fantasy after that. And that also turned me off JRPGs.
Was it
with Skyrim, Fallout, Neverwinter Nights, Baldur's Gate series, haven't needed to look back.
Okay, so I'm going to throw up a straw man defense for the Japanese developers. From my understanding, unless they're just pushing out crap to make money, which is not that often, sometimes they get these directors or developers that really have storyline driven, and a lot of that gets lost in the difference of culture that happens in anime all the time. There's certain times I'm like, sure. I don't understand this.
Totally understandable.
Do you think they were building towards something or a principle or a lesson or setting up the story and they executed poorly? Or it was just garbage?
I really think it depends on the game itself. So the stories in Final Fantasy VI are widely regarded. Final Fantasy VI is one of the best, I guess, is one of the most highly regarded video games in video game history. The stories are good. They it's got pathos, even and executed on an SNES platform, which is not easy to do. You clearly get a lot more room to tell the story on a more advanced or next-gen system.
Sure.
And the stories that are told, it's still good and evil. It's still got interesting visuals, summons, etc. At least that's really big in Final Fantasy. Eidolons. Maybe it's just the manner in which they're told. It's a little bit the art style. I just don't connect with it as much. So it for whatever cultural difference did not exist at first, there is now a cultural divide for me that sort of just distances me. And it just doesn't connect. Whereas Fallout, it kind of takes place in America. And
sure.
Fallout, and some Fallouts take place exactly in the United States. You're in Boston, you're in Vegas, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, and they're geared specifically toward American audiences. They're not a universal game like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That appeals to everyone.
Sure.
Well, at least everyone that likes that. MMOs I never got into just because it was difficult for me to play the role or for me to enjoy playing the role. When, someone asked me, like, can you go kill 40 rats in my basement? And I'll give you this sword. And there's like 17 other people waiting in line to get the same quest.
Yep.
I never even got into Star Wars Old Republic because of that same thing.
For that,
Yeah, like I want to be a Jedi and a bounty hunter just as much as everyone else, but everyone else is literally right there. And so I just kind of took away from it.
Yeah, MMOs are a different type of evil, and that is a different subject, and we are running long. So thank you for joining us for this episode, and catch us on part 3. That's it. That's our show. Join FighterWizard and myself for part 3 of our rapid fire episode where we will be discussing our favorite movie from the 80s and 90s. And there can be only one. Please do us the favor and like, subscribe, share this podcast so we can get some traction. Once I get around to it, check us out on our socials. Combative Nerds on Patreon, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You know the deal. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next episode.